Funky brother, good to see you. How you doing? Evening. Your first one in today. Tor, good to see you as well. Evening, how you doing? How you, brother? I'm doing great. Good to see you as well. Funky, how you doing? How's things, brother? Hi all, how you doing? JP, good to see you as well, brother. Good evening, Miles. How's things? Artistic, good to see you as well. Things are great. Have you recovered? Just about is what I would say. But yes, I would say just about 100%. Good evening, Miles and family. Caesar, good to see you as well. How you doing? Hi, Miles and CMF. Stormy, good to see you as well. How you doing? Good evening, Miles and all CMF. I hope everyone is well. Let's go. Addy, good to see you as well. How you doing? Hey, Miles, how you doing? I'm doing great. It's good to see you as well. Hello, Miles. Hope you're well. What's going on with the markets again? T, good to see you as well. How you doing? Good evening, Miles and CMF. Manny, good to see you as well. How you doing? The markets haven't restored to where they need to be restoring to so far. There's still slight manipulation going on. Hello, Miles and CMF. Comatose, good to see you as well. How you doing? I mean, the Fed reports came out today, the beige book that's always getting released. And well, we're going to go through essentially what the Fed has talked about. We're going to go through some announcements, some partnership news. And it is, mostly positive news that's going around, but the market isn't reflecting the positive news so far. And again, it just goes back to that sector of manipulation. Just like the live and retweeted. Thank you so much, Funky. Thank you so much, Funky Brother, for that. Yes, honestly, for everyone that's watching right now, please smash the like buttons and the retweet buttons and put a comment outside the live as well. Helps a lot with the algorithms. If you're watching this for the first time ever, welcome to the CMF Live. The CMF stands for Crypto House Family. My name is Miles. You can tune to this live Monday to Friday, 10 p.m. London time onwards for the most recent news regarding cryptocurrency, CBDCs, AI, politics, regulations, pretty much vital information for you to know about regarding the world completely transforming into a digital space. We also do essentially Q&As on this live as well, which means if you do have any questions, put it down to the comment section. More than happy to help you out. And the disclaimer, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. So welcome to episode 338 of the CMF Live, which is incredible one, episode 388 right now. And also, thank you so much to everybody who has already liked and retweeted essentially this live show on X. If you haven't, please take 5 seconds to like and retweet live show CMF members. Also, for everyone that's watching on YouTube, thank you so much to everyone who has also liked live as well. And if you haven't on YouTube and you're watching this right now, drop a like and drop a comment outside the live. Now, today we're going to go for a mixture of news, as we always do on this live. The first news we're going to be covering is regarding the Fed books, and then we're going to go through some banking news that's going around regarding the crypto space. And it is, as I said, fairly positive news which is going around inside the crypto space. However, the market isn't reflecting the positive news that's going, the positive sentiment that's going around right now. Now, before we go through the first news, which is regarding the Fed books, let's go to the comment section first, and then we go straight into the first news. Let's see where we're at. We are at here. Hi, Miles and family. Good to see you guys. Let's go for facts news. Can't wait to listen for some essentially urgent announcements. Let's go, Carl. Good to see you. How you doing? Hi, Miles and everyone. One love. Good to see you. How you doing? Evening, Miles and CMF. Good to see you. Jason, how you doing? How's things? Okay. First news on tonight's live is regarding the Fed report. So here's essentially what's happened with the beige book that came out today. Fed's highly anticipated, essentially, beige book document is released. And here are essentially the details. According to the Fed's latest beige book reports, no significant change has been observed in economic activities across the country, essentially recently, which should be neutral, in other words. Consumer spending declines slightly, employment levels remain largely stable, but labor essentially demanded weakened. Now, wages rose modestly across all the essentially regions, but prices continue to rise due to input costs essentially and spending on services and tariffs. 3 of the Fed's 12 districts reported a slight increase in economic activities, and 5 also reported no change, and 4 reported a slight weakening. While retail spending declined, some districts saw increased car sales due to strong demand for electric vehicles, while high-income consumers increased their spendings on luxury travels and accommodations. Middle and low-income households turned to discounts and promotions in the face of the rising prices. Manufacturing activity varied by region, with most essentially regions reporting challenging conditions due to the high tariffs and weak demand. Agriculture, energy, and transportation activity experienced a general essentially decline. Interest-sensitive sectors, especially residential and commercial real estate, showed mixed signals. Some regions saw increased credit demand, while supported by lower essentially interest rates, while others remained stagnant. According to the Fed reports, economic growth expectations vary by region. While optimism has increased in some regions, most noted that the high uncertainty continues to weigh in on the economic activities. One regional report noted that a potential prolonged government shutdown poses a downside risk to growth, which is true. We need to get the US government back up and running ASAP, to be fairly honest. While employment remained essentially generally stable, there was essentially a significant weakening in labor demands. Many employers implemented layoffs or even reduced staffing through natural essentially attrition due to the falling demands. Economic uncertainty and increased investments in artificial intelligence also. However, some employers reported that finding workers essentially had become easier, that they were shifting their focus to temporary or part-time workers rather than full-time employees. They noted that the changes essentially in immigration policies were causing labor supply difficulties, particularly in agriculture, construction, manufacturing, and tourism sectors. Wages increased modestly to moderately across all regions. A significant increase in employer health insurance costs in recent weeks has put pressure on labor costs. Prices continue to rise nationwide. Many regions reported accelerating, increasing essentially in the cost of insurance, healthcare, and technology services, along with the import costs. While import costs with custom duties were widely felt to the extent essentially of which firms passed these increases onto their final prices essentially varied. While some manufacturers and retailers held their prices steady to maintain market share, others passed on their cost, increasing their entirely to their customer base, and prices for raw materials like steel and lumber have fallen in some regions due to the falling demands. So that is essentially what came out from the Fed's essentially beige book. It's a mixture of negativity and neutral, nothing positive going on, so the market can react off it. Now, typically when the Fed comes out with their beige book and it's negative on the traditional sense, the alternative market spaces will tend to pick up. Unfortunately, Bitcoin is still following tech stocks, not gold. So that is one of the reasons why essentially the markets didn't have the positive sentiments that they're supposed to be having, because when traditional markets fail, alternative market spaces are supposed to climb. Unfortunately, Bitcoin doesn't do that. Even though it's digital gold, it's more like fool's gold because it follows tech stocks. Now, so if you're wondering to yourself, why is the markets not picking up essentially in any sort of a way? Well, this came out, was supposed to be slightly positive, not majorly positive, but slightly. It could have been positive for the crypto space, and unfortunately it wasn't. The markets are also heavily essentially manipulated right now. The crypto market spaces are heavily manipulated right now. And the timeline is just, as I said on yesterday's live, incredibly interesting that going into a Clarity Act, this is happening. Also, is the banking messaging standard changing to an ISO, this is happening. So it's an interesting timeline of a market collapse and a market not being able to stand on its 2 feet while going through the biggest regulation we could possibly get inside the crypto space to go towards utility. Right before that, this is happening. Now, cryptocurrency markets enters essentially is what some people are suggesting, healthier stages after the major essentially downtrend we had of the market completely collapsing, you could say, up to a certain extent, the biggest collapse we've pretty much had so far. A significant essentially event impacted the cryptocurrency derivatives markets last week, described by K33 essentially Velt Lude as a constructive bullish reset, setting foundations for future growth. So some analytic companies, for example, in this states, K33 is coming out and saying what's happened inside the market space regarding the China tariff situation, collapsing the entire market space, essentially of 100% tariffs on everything, could be seen as a bullish reset inside the market space rather than such a negative foundation. This event cleared excessive leverage, temporarily thinning liquidity, but offering a potential long-term market recovery, highlighted by essentially patient and cautious trading dynamics, according to K33 analysis. Blockbeat's also news reported that the cryptocurrency markets entered a healthier stage following essentially a significant chain liquidation event last week. K33's research director, Velt Lude, emphasized that the market's potential for long-term growth. They're pretty much saying we've shaken off as much as we could from the market space, and now the crypto market space can start slowly climbing. The event also essentially saw reactions from investors and analysts concluding that clearing leverage was beneficial. In other words, when essentially they say clearing leverage was beneficial, the house won. Exchanges, when too many people put leverage positions down on crypto exchanges for long positions or short positions, and there are too many positions going on. For example, there's too many people putting 50x leverages, 60x leverages, 100, 150, 200% leverage essentially on their essentially charts, trying to go for whatever they're trying to go for: Bitcoin, Solana, Cardano, AVAX, Ethereum, HBAR, Ondo, whatever these essentially traders are going for. If there's too much leverage positions open on short or long, they have to get liquidated, because the exchanges are not going to be able to pay out that amount of volume, even though they're supposed to. But it's just, as I always like to say, the house has to win a few times before it pays out. So that's what they mean when they say the event also saw reactions from investors and analysts concluding that the clearing leverage was beneficial. For who? The exchanges. The market reset may spur improved regulatory measures and heightened technological advances, contributing to a more resilient market framework in the future. The structural impact could further influence investor confidence and market approaches in the phases to come. In the long term, yes, the crypto market space is going to be heavily healthy. Huge amounts of liquidity is going to be entering into, especially with that Clarity Act on the way. In the short term, the house is definitely winning, you could possibly say. Now, moving on from that to the analytics company K33, to Franco, a German bank. A few banks, essentially, which we're going to go for on tonight's live, have decided to expand inside the crypto sector, and one of them being this German bank. Franco German Bank, ODD, essentially O, BHF, launches a euro-backed stablecoin. Franco German Banking Group essentially has launched a stablecoin pegged to the euros under the MiCA regulations in the EU. According to the announcement, essentially that came out today, the bank will serve as an issuer of the Euro D stablecoin, they're calling it, while market essentially making platform Flowdesk will provide liquidity and Fireblocks will supply the tokenization infrastructure for this token. Guy D. Lusso, the Deputy Chief Operating Officer at the essentially German bank, said the group felt it was essential to offer a European solution to essentially for euros to be provided an alternative to stablecoins dominated by the US dollars, in other words, USDT, USDC, RLUSD. Stablecoins are digital tokens pegged to the traditional currencies like the euros, for example, and the German bank is privately owned European financial group formed in 2016 through the merger of the Franco, essentially from the merger of the France's ODD Bank, essentially founded in 1849, and Germany, essentially BHF Bank, founded in 1854. According to the bank, essentially it operates across France, Tunisia, Germany, and Switzerland, and they're now offering a Euro-pegged stablecoin. But the rest of the world, particularly Europe, is beginning to take more of an interest in developing stablecoins pegged to euros because they want to compete with the US market space. Also, Societe Generale regulated the digital asset arm of SG Forge, introduced essentially the Euro Coinvertible, a euro-dominated stablecoin on essentially Ethereum, available to qualified institutional investors onboarded by banks. Also, Old Unity, a joint venture backed by essentially Flow Trades, Deutsche Bank, DWS, and essentially Galaxy, announced the release of the Euro U, they're calling it. The regulated Euro-pegged stablecoin became publicly available. Also, 9 European banks also announced plans to launch a Euro-pegged stablecoin, which is expected to launch in the second half of 2026. According to essentially the Bahao Koto, the co-founder of the Paxos Labs, a US-backed stablecoins have benefited from the multi-year head start to achieve the essentially comparable growth. He said Euro and other fiat-backed issuers will need to develop unique adoption strategies focusing on the right partnerships, use cases, and liquidity pathways also. Since the United States passed the Genius Act, essentially, Europe has been taking notes, so has Hong Kong, so has Singapore, and the rest of the Middle Eastern nations. In September, essentially, European Central Bank President Christian Lagarde cautioned that the European Union needs to close the regulatory loopholes around foreign stablecoins, warning that unregulated issuers could draw liquidity away from euros and the broader EU financial market space. Also, during a hearing, the Eurozone Economic essentially Outlook, Pierre, managing director of the European Stability essentially Mechanism, the ESM, said Europe should do its best to facilitate the generation of euro-dominated stablecoins by domestic issuers. Europe has also been debating a euro digital, a central bank digital currency in the European Parliament since 2023. But its launch is not expected before 2029. So 9 European banks so far are about to be introducing euro stablecoins. 9 European banks. Look, I love the idea essentially of institutions and banks getting more involved day by day, expanding into market space day by day, because it's great to see that innovation happening, that growth happening, that positivity towards the crypto space happening. Also provides a tremendous amount of liquidity towards the market space with all these banks trying to, introduce stablecoins. Also trying to remain relevant when the time comes, because if we're going to be using wallet-to-wallet transactions, we don't really need a third party, as I explained yesterday's live and before lives as well. But some people might prefer that traditional safety net of a bank, which is why some banks will exist going into the digital world and some banks won't. But with banks creating their own stablecoins, they're essentially trying to say, we want to stay relevant going into a digital world. Again, it will provide a tremendous amount of liquidity with all these banks creating stablecoins towards the crypto space, 100%. But what it also will do is create confusion in the market space. Hong Kong put it best, which was we don't need 20 different versions of the US dollars in terms of stablecoins. We only need 2 to 3 max. Same scenario goes for the Europe, essentially for European stablecoin or a British stablecoin and so on. We don't need 20 different versions of each stablecoin of euros, pounds, and so on. We just need 2 or 3 British stablecoins, 2 or 3 US dollar stablecoins, 2 or 3 euro stablecoins, and so on, because that will just create tremendous amount of confusion going in later on. But love the idea of all these banks, institutions, day by day expanding in some sort of a way inside the crypto space, and it does provide liquidity in the long term. Now, another bank, Europe, essentially, Eurobor Bank gains conditional approval to serve as a crypto sector. So today, Eurobor Bank received a primary condition approval from the US regulators to launch a new crypto-focused bank in Columbus, Ohio, co-founded essentially by Palmer Luckey and Joe Lonsdale. This approval marks a significant shift in the crypto banking sector inside the United States, potentially easing institutional entry in gaps left by recent bank collapses. Eurobor essentially will focus heavily on stablecoin services, and Eurobor Bank, spearheaded by essentially prominent tech figures like Palmer Luckey and Joe Lonsdale, aims to bridge the banking service void, emphasizing the need for crypto, AI, and defense sectors. The bank is notably essentially positioning itself as a digital service innovator with a focus on stablecoins. The bank also seeks to transform crypto servicing by integrating stablecoins into its offerings, intended to support high net worth clients and institutional investors. This, alongside its potential as a narrow banking model, highlights its role in safe digital asset management. Market stakeholders are observing the move closely. Senator Elizabeth Warren cautioned about the potential favoritism, while Peter essentially backing the significance of a strong influence. Public confirmations are limited as primary figures, and statements remain absent on social media platforms. Researchers predict that Eurobor Bank's strategy could instigate institutional adoption of stablecoins, expanding the US in terms of crypto banking landscapes, and Eurobor's conservative full reserve model may set a precedent for regulated digital banking, potentially catalyzing the broader market acceptance. So, another bank inside the United States is essentially setting its footprints in offering some sort of crypto-related services. It's great to see that the US, honestly, from where it was to where it is now, giving the approval to these banks to start turning towards cryptocurrencies. Again, in the long run, this will provide a tremendous amount of liquidity and the positiveness that's coming out of it. Also, the next news we're going to cover on tonight's live, moving on from the banking news from France, Germany, and the US, which we're going to come back to the US banking again a little bit later on tonight's live. But moving on to BlackRock. Before we go through BlackRock news, let's go inside the comment section first, and then we'll go straight into the BlackRock news. See where we're at in the comment section. As I said previously, this is live, which means, as always, if you do have any questions or statements, go for it inside the comment section. More than happy to help you. So, and I go through everyone's comments one by one. So let's just see where we were at. We were at here. Even Miles and CMF, Jason, good to see you. How you doing? Even Miles, Paul, good to see you. How you doing? I heard that Ripple gets a foot into BRICS for serious business. Carl, good to see you. How you doing? There has been some sort of PDF documentations of Ripple mentionings on regarding to BRICS. Greetings, Miles of CMF. Lena, good to see you. How you doing? Good evening, Miles and CMF SP. Good to see you. How are you doing? Good evening, Miles. How are you doing? I'm doing great, Kelly. Good to see you as well. Evening, Miles and everyone. Joe, good to see you as well. How you doing? Evening, Miles and Crypto Peeps. Semper, good to see you as well. How you doing? Good evening, Miles. Michael, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you doing today? I'm doing great. Scott, hello, Miles and CMF. Good to see you as well. How's everyone? Everyone's great. Is Miles, why so much danger in the crypto space? Why is there so much danger inside the crypto space? Inside the crypto space? It's because it's incredibly manipulated, and it's right before regulations, the major one, which is the Clarity Act, which in its words is going to be bringing clarity towards crypto space. The SEC knows what it's doing, the CFTC knows what it's doing, the crypto market space can finally start shifting towards utility rather than just buy, sell, buy, sell. Good evening, Miles and CMF. I hope I didn't miss too much. Let's go, Mike. Good to see you, brother. How you doing? I think you're fairly okay. But at the end of the live show, I'll go through the gist of what we talked about. Evening, Pure. Good to see you. How you doing? Will the bull run start after dollar collapse? No, the dollar won't collapse. Even for if you're thinking to yourself the US dollars is going to collapse, the likelihood of that is pretty much zero, is what I would have to say. If the US dollars collapse, then that means essentially the world economy will collapse overnight, pretty much, if the dollar collapses. The world still runs on the US dollars. If that happens, then crypto will also collapse because Bitcoin is not the safe haven digital gold token everybody thinks. Not everybody, people inside the Bitcoin space think it is. If the US dollars collapses, it will be absolute chaos. Everybody will be in the streets protesting because nobody can afford to pay their bills or provide food for their family, not just inside the US, but the entire world, because we rely on the US. I mean, the UK, for example, essentially has the highest amount of purchases in terms of US bonds. So if the US dollars collapses, the world will collapse overnight. Everybody will be in the streets protesting for food, essentially for clothes, for anything they can possibly get their hands on. Crypto will also collapse overnight alongside it as well, because Bitcoin, as much as it's been seen as the safe haven digital gold risk off asset it may claim to be, it really isn't. It does tend to follow tech stocks rather than following gold. Gold at that moment in time will skyrocket when the dollar essentially collapses 1 billion%. Gold will be rocketing towards Mars, while crypto will be rocketing into the toilet because Bitcoin can't hold this position as much as it claims to be a digital gold. The US dollar is not, and also the crypto market space and the stock market will absolutely collapse into the toilet too. The crypto market space is held together essentially by USDT because we don't have utility. The reason why we don't have utility is because we don't have rules and regulations. We get rules and regulations, we can detach from Bitcoin and then let the dollar collapse if it wants to, because that wouldn't matter anymore because we have utility in the projects like XRP, XLM, XDC, HBAR, Solana, Cardano, whatever. They can survive a collapse of the US dollars up to a certain extent because we have utility. But you don't want a dollar collapse. And I know for the longest time inside the crypto space, people have been saying, we want the US dollars to collapse. The US dollars is going to collapse. But people don't understand the issue with the dollars collapsing. The whole world is going to erupt. It's going to be flipped upside down if the US dollar collapses. It's not just that the countries are holding US dollars. They're holding US bonds, which means they're backing their country with the US's market space. If the dollar collapses, when the US market space will go down overnight, and so will the rest of the world. So if you are somebody out there that's advocating for the US dollars to collapse, you really don't understand how the world operates. Not saying that you're saying this, Johnny, in any sort of a way. You're just asking a question regarding the essentially US dollar collapse. So this is not towards you, Johnny, in any sort of way, but I just want to make a broader statement on the whole US dollar situation. If it does collapse, everyone's done for. Unless we have utility. Hi, Miles and CMF. George, good to see you. How you doing? Hi, Miles and CMF. Golden Dragon, good to see you. How you doing? Evening, Pure, good to see you. How you doing? Please like Miles and a lot of research. Thank you so much, Golden Dragon. Yes, if you haven't liked or retweet this live, please like and drop a retweet. Smash the retweet button. Smash the like button, everyone. Let's go, CMF. Will the US government, while the US government is closed, while the US government is closed, ETFs seem to be being delayed. Will we see a surge of approvals when it opens? Should do. Great question. Because the US government essentially regarding the situation of a US government shutdown, we do still need about 4 to 5 votes from the Democratic side if they ever want to give it over. But is the ETF approvals going to be delayed? Yes. Is the ETF approvals going to be approved when the doors open for the SEC instantly overnight? Probably not. Will they be approved essentially at a much more faster rate? They should be, in my opinion, 100%. Because the reason of why they shouldn't be approved isn't there. So it should have been approved a long time ago, to be fairly honest, with the new SEC that we had. But they just took their times and waited for a government shutdown. But yes, I do believe they should be opened. Essentially, they should be approving them as soon as essentially their doors are open. Not overnight, but soon enough. How much will XRP be worth at the end of 2025? Carl, great question. What I would say to that is consider variable change. Evening, Miles. Jack, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Carl, think about the long term, not just 2025 with XRP. I said to everyone 2 years ago and a year ago, the last stage before everybody makes it, the last stage before everybody makes it, is going to be frustration. Frustration is going to hit you like a brick wall. And some people will lose it in that moment in time and sell their positions and sell their long-term holds, and some won't because they'll see the bigger picture. Not saying that you are not seeing it in any sort of way, Carl, at all. But frustration is definitely hitting some people, is what I would say. Again, not you, Carl, in any sort of way. What I've seen on X, for example, inside the comment sections of X or essentially on TikTok, forgotten crypto pages and so on, frustration is definitely getting to some people, 100%. But the good thing is the CMF frustration doesn't work on the CMF because we know all about it. Now, BlackRock is what we're talking about next, which is also relative to Bitcoin. Because Bitcoin follows tech stocks, this is important news. BlackRock and Nvidia essentially and partners secure $40 billion in terms of data center deals. Miles, you're totally right. It is a lifetime investment. Let's go, Carl. BlackRock, Nvidia, Microsoft, and Musk's essentially XAI have secured a $40 billion deal to acquire and align data centers, regarding underscoring a significant investment in AI-related infrastructures. The deal highlights essentially institutional confidence in AI technology, potentially influencing computing capabilities, though it does not directly impact cryptocurrencies or involve specific regulatory updates. In my opinion, it does. Because tech companies and tech stocks affect the price of Bitcoin. So 100% regarding tech companies doing well, it affects the crypto market space. Because Bitcoin doesn't follow gold, it follows tech stocks. 99% of times, Bitcoin will follow tech stocks rather than following gold. BlackRock and Nvidia has announced a $40 billion acquisition of aligned data centers, underscoring significant essentially investments in AI infrastructures. The move underlines the growing importance of data centers for AI technologies, with broad implementations for tech sectors but minimal cryptocurrency impacts. The $40 billion essentially involves BlackRock, Nvidia, and spearheading the acquisition of aligned data centers to bolster essentially AI infrastructure. This move reflects their strict focus on expanding technology investments. BlackRock essentially and Nvidia are key players in this acquisition, highlighting a shift towards AI-focused expansions and developments. Their essentially actions indicate a growing prioritization of robust data centers and capacities. Immediate effects also include bolstered AI infrastructure capabilities, positioning companies for enhanced technological growth, and this highlights the potential of innovation essentially across various sectors. Financial implications point to intensified competition. AI technologies through current essentially regulations remain unchanged, and social impacts also include ongoing discussions on AI's role in terms of future tech landscapes. This acquisition parallels past tech investments like AWS expansions and signaling continued interest in large-scale infrastructure developments. Notably, tech giants have historically driven similar growth trends also, and potential outcomes include accelerated technology innovations, potentially increasing AI's market shares, and historical trends also do suggest steady advancements driven by such strategic initiatives and substantial investments. This is what essentially Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, said. Our significant investment in AI-related infrastructure underlines the crucial role BlackRock plays in shaping the future of data centers and their capabilities, said BlackRock's essentially CEO. So AI infrastructure, data centers, BlackRock is heavily involved in it now. $40 billion investment is not joking in any sort of a way. This should play out great for tech stocks going into essentially this week. So which should play out great for Bitcoin's footsteps also because it follows tech stocks. Now, Bhutan is what we're going to talk about tonight. So that could be this week pushing maybe the market on the good side. But yet we still do have a government shutdown, which is leaving the market, the crypto market space at limbo right now. The only thing, honestly, that could save the crypto market space is the Clarity Act. It's the only thing that could save the market space right now. But we need that government shutdown situation to go away, which means we need the Democrats' votes of 4 to 5 votes from the Democratic Party to get the ball rolling. Now, Bhutan is what we're going to talk about next on tonight's live. We talked about Bhutan maybe once or twice in the past when they decided to open up a Bitcoin mining infrastructure essentially firm, and tremendous amount of Bitcoin mining was done in Bhutan, which also they sold somewhere down the line. But now Bhutan has taken essentially their next step inside of the digital world. Day by day, we are getting closer to every country releasing some sort of a digital ID. Now, we've had it essentially inside the United Kingdom. For the past 2-3 weeks, they've introduced it inside the United Kingdom as well. And this one is about Bhutan, but Bhutan has done an interesting twist on it. They're testing out something, which is this. In a strict shift, Bhutan has partnered with Ethereum, involving essentially key figures like Vitalik Buterin and Aya to integrate blockchain technology into its national digital identity system. The move signifies a notable step towards decentralized governance, potentially enhancing Ethereum's market perception despite no immediate regulatory updates. Bhutan has announced its adoption essentially of Ethereum blockchains to underpin its national identity system. This move essentially marks a significant step towards employing cutting-edge technology to bolster the security and decentralization of government services. The initiative involves key players such as Vitalik Buterin and Aya, with Bhutan emphasizing Ethereum's decentralized nature. The country aims to create a self-sovereign identity for its citizens, leveraging blockchain's robust security features. Citizens and industries in Bhutan may experience enhanced privacy and security with Ethereum's adoption. This development is likely to stimulate essentially further interest in blockchain-based governmental systems globally, showcasing the practical applications of decentralized technology. The implementation has potential financial implications for Ethereum's network, possibly increasing its value and market perception. Bhutan's choice demonstrates a shift towards decentralized governance solutions with Ethereum at their forefront. Ethereum's integration in Bhutan could drive increased network activity, which means Ethereum's network is going to be congested. Great choice by Bhutan's essentially government. Affecting liquidity and total value locked TVL, the move introduces a unique precedent essentially for positioning Ethereum as a viable solution for national identity systems. Aya, the president of Ethereum Foundation, highlighted essentially the significance, a deeply inspiring to see a nation commit to empowering its citizens with self-sovereign essential identities, and the initiative reinforces blockchain growing role in governance. The use of Ethereum in a national system may lead to regulatory discussions on blockchain's role in public infrastructures. Historically, Ethereum's adoption has correlated with the market confidence and the potential gains, setting the edge for a broader adoption across the sector. So Bhutan's government is right now testing out on Ethereum's chain for digital sort of IDs for its own citizens. They're at the testing stages right now. And they're doing it with Vitalik Buterin as well. So not just going onto the Ethereum chain to test it out for themselves. Vitalik Buterin is involved. It's a big deal in that sense. It's great news for the crypto space, and it adds that credibility side towards the crypto space, what I would have to say 100%. Now, moving on from Bhutan to US Bank. Another US bank is about to be launching digital asset unit for tokenized payments. There's so much banking news going on inside the crypto space. Bank this, bank that, expanding, banks expanding, institutions expanding day by day, but the crypto market space isn't reflecting it. US Bank, essentially the 5th largest essentially commercial bank inside the United States, announced today the creation of a new digital asset and money movement organization to expand its role in blockchain-based financial systems. The division will focus on stablecoin issuance, crypto custody, tokenized assets, and digital money movements, aligning with the growing institutional demand for regulated digital infrastructure. Jamie Walker, a 20-year-old essentially payments veteran and a current CEO of Evelyn, will lead the new division while continuing to essentially oversee merchant payment services until a successor is appointed. According to Dominic Virtue, the chief digital officer at the US Bank, the initiative reflects the bank's strategy to bridge traditional essentially payments and essentially blockchain-based solutions. This is what he had to say. Clients increasingly want to understand how digital assets can help them safely move money, store deposits, and use tokenized assets, he said. US Bank will use its experience in real-time payments and digital wallets to build a compliant digital money solutions, but there is no official release date on the radar so far. It's just the announcement. Citibank, also the third largest bank of the US in assets, confirmed plans to launch a regulated crypto custody platform in 2026, offering institutional-grade storage for stablecoin reserves and underlying assets of spot Bitcoin ETFs. Both Citi and the US Bank essentially are now positioning themselves for a future where digital assets function within existing banking infrastructures and frameworks rather than outside them. While Citi focuses on custody and fund management, US Bank approach leans towards more money movement and tokenized payments, suggesting that major banks are beginning to divide digital finance into specialized verticals. As regulations ease, competition now hinges on how effectively major banks integrate stablecoins, tokenized assets, and digital payments into mainstream systems. So, honestly, the amount of news we're getting from banks essentially expanding. Yesterday, I read out essentially a few bank news as well, expanding into the crypto space. Today, I'm reading up more banking news, expanding towards the crypto space, which should all play out positively towards the crypto space. However, the crypto market space is still heavily manipulated as of now. This is why I say the Clarity Act and rules and regulations will save the crypto market space. Reserve Bank of India is what we talk about next, which is banking news, but also relatable to CBDCs. While other banks inside the United States or in the EU or in the UK are focusing essentially on CBDCs and stablecoins and cryptocurrencies to see what regulations they can put out, India's Reserve Bank has a different opinion. So, Reserve Bank of India advocates CBDCs over cryptocurrencies. The Reserve Bank of India's governor emphasized today the preference for promoting a central bank digital currency over stablecoins and cryptocurrencies in India. In India already, they do have digital identities. Not everybody has one, but they do have it up to a certain extent. The same thing that's been released in the UK all of a sudden. This priority essentially underscores India's cautious regulatory stance on private cryptocurrencies impacting their local markets and landscapes. The focus remains on developing a secure CBDC ecosystem. The Reserve Bank of India has retreated its commitment to the development of the rupees as its central bank digital currency, taking precedence over cryptocurrencies and stablecoins. Governor essentially Das emphasized a cautious and safety-first approach to its adoption. Immediate implementations include essentially delayed nation rollout of the CBDC as the project remains essentially in the pilot phase. Fintech firms are also invited to participate in the retail sandbox to innovate around the CBDC, highlighting a collaborative government approach. Industries and the crypto community exhibit mixed reactions on this scenario. While some developers welcome the regulatory clarity, others express concerns over the competitive threat to private crypto innovation. The governor Das statements underscores the central bank's cautious approach to CBDCs. Research anticipates that India's focus on CBDCs could lead to enhanced regulatory frameworks affecting essentially private cryptocurrencies, and historical trends showcase potential shifts in crypto markets dynamics as regulatory clarity and strengthens the state-backed solutions over the private counterparts. So, while some countries around the world are focused on essentially creating, for example, the EU is focused on creating euro-pegged stablecoins to compete with the US dollar-pegged stablecoins, while the UK is introducing digital IDs and thinking about doing some sort of stablecoin procedures as well, with the bank governor essentially of the United Kingdom, the head of the Bank of England, coming out, Andrew Bailey, and suggesting that they're going to be focusing on essentially CBDCs and stablecoins, and they don't care about the third-party banks. The US focusing on bank expansions and cryptocurrencies, stablecoins, and so on. India is going the opposite. They're going mainly towards CBDCs, trying to end essentially cryptocurrencies and essentially stablecoins. It also could be a route other countries slowly start taking essentially for themselves as well, focusing more on CBDCs and trying to restrict the access of cryptocurrencies to their citizens. Now, Hong Kong is what we're going to talk about right now, essentially next on tonight's live. But before we talk about Hong Kong, let's go inside the comment section first, and then we'll go straight into the next news. So let's see where we're at inside the comment section. As I said previously, if you do have any questions, go for inside the comment section. More than happy to help you out. So let's see where we're at inside the comment section. October 30th, 2025, a date to remember, just got a feeling. Fair enough. I have kids, and this placement is for them. Let's go, Carl. Honestly, for looking out for your family inside of this digital world. Honestly, a lot of people still don't realize how bad it's going to get in a digital world. And if you're not prepared for a CBDC, for a digital world, for a CBDC or social credit system or a 15-minute city world, it's going to be, horrendous for everyone that doesn't have an understanding of this world. For example, today I had a phone call from one of my closest friends, and he was talking about how, this crypto project good or so on. And, he's also talking about how cash is going away and this and that. And to be fair, 4 years ago, I told him all of this. And I told him to invest in certain crypto projects, as long as invest in XRP, because it's the backbone of this financial system. I told him to go for XLM, I told him to go for XDC, I told him to go for HBAR and a few other crypto projects as well. And now he's calling me, so you can consider him as one of the people. I'm not going to name who he is, but you can consider him as one of those people. It could be your friend, it could be your work colleague, it could be essentially, a distant relative or so on, that suddenly sees you and starts talking to you about a digital future that's coming. That's how you know how close we're getting. Because 4 years ago, people like us knew about this inside the crypto space. Essentially, we talked about a digital world 4 years ago when China essentially was the only country that had a CBDC, a social credit system, or 15-minute cities going on. There's documentaries about that too. And now today, you're going to have friends and your closest family members telling you about money's about to go away, cash is going away, and this is about to happen and so on. That's how you know how close you are getting. How often do you vote to open the government? Inside the United States, I wouldn't be able to tell you. Hi, Mars and family. Alex, good to see you. How you doing? Frustration should equal determination. Don't let them drag you down. Absolute facts. On yesterday's live, I said to everyone, the only reason they're collapsing the market space right before, because you could tell, they love the crypto market space. Banks, day by day, are expanding inside the crypto sector. Institutions, day by day, are spending billions to get involved inside the crypto sector. Governments are essentially applying some sort of crypto blockchain frameworks into their system. So you can tell for a fact they love the crypto space. Right before a Clarity Act, right before the messaging standard essentially switches over to ISO, we're having this massive manipulated crash. We've had, as I said previously, China tariff situations. And sure, fair enough, it wasn't 100% tariffs on everything, but it was 100% tariffs in the past. And this uncalled for reaction inside the market space was 1 billion% manipulated. And it was right before these two major moves, which is the Clarity Act and the ISO. And I said the only reason they will do this to you, manipulate the market space at this large scale, is because what you're holding inside the crypto space, depending on what you're holding, is extremely valuable to them. The only reason they will manipulate the crypto market space to crash it on purpose at that large scale on tariff news that we've had in the past 6 months is because they know you're holding something valuable and they want it and they want to shake you out. If you weren't holding anything valuable, they couldn't care less about you or the market space. It's like when with gold and silver on the right, how do you feel going forward at this moment? With gold and silver essentially going on the uptrend, I think I missed out on someone. Hi, Miles' family. Alex, good to see you. How you doing? October 30th this year, sun. This may send 3 to 10 days of darkness. I don't know that. Thank you so much, Gordon Jank, for that. How often do you vote to operate the government? I wouldn't know. I would have to double check on that. How, with gold and silver on ramp, how do you feel going forward? With gold and silver climbing, those are typically essentially assets that would only climb if we're getting close to some sort of market volatility. Has anyone any examples of when the three bags were down significantly, but even they will wish they had sold at a loss? I don't know what has anyone any examples of when 3 bags were down significantly, but even then they wished they had sold at a loss? No. I never sell at a loss. Because I know what I'm holding. I don't hold typically, I don't know what you're holding, but I don't hold random projects. If I hold a project, I'm holding it for a reason. It could be based on partnership announcements or contracts or licensings or what it's going to achieve in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the line. So if it goes down even by 10 bags, I'm still holding on because I know what I'm holding on to. And if you know what you're holding on to, it shouldn't scare you if the market goes on a 90% collapse, because you're holding on to something valuable based on your own research of what it's going to achieve. As long as those contracts and licenses are always in place, you're good to go. So if you're holding something that you know what you're holding for, and you know what they can achieve based on their licensings, based on their contracts, based on their NDAs and so on, then there shouldn't be a worry even if it goes 10 bags down, or 20 bags down, or 100 bags down, or 90% collapse. Only if you're holding something and you don't know what it is and you're not sure about it, and then it goes down in price, that's when essentially it's up to you what you want to do next. But for me, even if my XRP, my portfolio essentially goes 90% down, I'm still holding on to it, not selling a single penny, because I know what I'm holding. Facts. Let's go, Ray. My question is, when do you cut your losses rather than just watching essentially watching your bags go to zero? Good stuff, mate. You're good to listen to. Thank you so much for that, for the kind words. Great answer, mate. Very much appreciated. No problem, Skits. Will Clarity Act give crypto all the rules and regulations needed for institutions to flood crypto so we can have a lift-off? Great question. Will the Clarity Act actually help the crypto space the way it's supposed to? Yes. But there's one thing you should know, which I explained in yesterday's live as well, which I explained in the past as well, but it's just something that everybody should be remembered of. Once the Clarity Act passes through, it doesn't mean overnight the crypto market space is going to go through the roof, because you got to understand the other side of it. The Clarity Act essentially is great news. It's excellent news. It's the news we need inside the crypto space. It's the regulation we need inside the crypto space. Therefore, it's good news, which means right before the Clarity Act passing through, everybody's going to long the market space, which you can take a guess of what's going to happen next. Because we know it's excellent news and everybody's going to put 200% leverage positions on long, or 50% or 100%, or 80 or 90% leverages essentially on long positions, you can tell what's going to happen next. The Clarity Act is going to pass through. The market is going to probably slightly dump, which is then going to be wiping out all the leverage positions that have longed the market space, because it's great news. And then the market will pick up and go towards utility. That is one outcome. The other outcome is passes through, it's neutral for about a space of a few days or a week, and then it essentially picks up. Consider both those outcomes going to a Clarity Act. Will the Clarity, so that's what essentially will happen. Yes, the markets will boost because we're going towards utility. Would they happen the night after it? Probably not. It's one outcome, that it might just happen of the night afterwards. The other outcome will be the exchanges, the house, will want to wipe out all the long positions, because everybody knows there's excellent news, but somehow the market will get manipulated again to wipe out all the long positions. And then the market will pick up on the clarity news and utility will start to be happening slowly. Consider those outcomes. But in the long term, the Clarity Act is excellent. It's exactly what we need inside the crypto space for utility. Now, Hong Kong is what we're going to talk about next on tonight's live. Maybe they should temporarily ban futures trading long. I mean, I agree. that, yeah. Look, in times like this, when the market essentially, is volatile, the only people that are winning are people who are scooping it up for long-term hold. When the crypto markets are extremely volatile, futures trading is extremely risky. The people that are actually winning in times like this are the ones that are just scooping up the crypto projects they want at a discount for long-term positions. The people that are going for short-term positions to essentially, do futures trading, they're the ones that always get wrecked. So be careful in terms of volatile market stages. You can also make a great amount of money essentially on, the volatility of the market space as well, but it's very low risk. I mean, it's very low possibility, high possibility of you getting liquidated. Or it gets passed and it skyrockets, or it gets passed and skyrockets. That's also the outcome as well. Now, Hong Kong. Hong Kong CMBI chooses Binance's BNB chain to tokenize $3.8 billion in fund. BNB is becoming the preferred chain for Chinese investors, for public Chinese companies, or in general, Chinese investors. The Hong Kong subsidiary of one of the largest Chinese banks has just made history by tokenizing a colossal fund on the Binance blockchain. A bold initiative that comes in a highly tense regulatory context. CMB International Assets Management is no stranger to this. Indeed, after tokenizing its US dollar-dominated money market fund on Solana essentially last August, the Hong Kong subsidiary of China Merchants Bank is doubling down with BNB Chain. Investors can now access this investment vehicle via two tokens, essentially CMB Mint, or essentially CMB Mint, thus creating a bridge between traditional and decentralized finance. The fund in question is nothing trivial. Launched in early 2024, it mainly invests in deposits and money market instruments backed by state, covering the United States, Singapore, and the European Union, and several Asian essential markets also. Moreover, its rapid growth speaks for itself. A 24% increase between April and August, rising from 2.9% to $3.6 billion in assets under management. The expansion essentially on BNB Chain, one of the most dynamic blockchain ecosystems in the sector, opens new prospects. Accredited investors can now use their tokenized holdings in various DeFi essentially applications, notably for lending and yield generations. The infrastructure provider, OneChain, essentially on-chain, facilitates this integration, transforming traditional essentially money market funds into a fully functional digital asset. Chinese securities regulators have also pressured Hong Kong's brokers to suspend their real-world asset tokenization projects. In this context, CMBI's initiative appears as a remarkable act of defiance, or at least a demonstration of Hong Kong's independence from Beijing. For its part, the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, contacted by Cointelegraph, declined to make any sort of comments on this matter so far, but this is huge news. Furthermore, this institutional essentially silence adds another layer of uncertainty. Therefore, the central question remains, is CMBI's tokenized fund aligned with local regulatory frameworks, or is it navigating in a legal gray area? Nevertheless, this initiative confirms an underlying trend. Traditional financial institutions are accelerating their blockchain adoption, even in jurisdictions known for its strict movements. The choice of BNB Chain, despite Binance's past controversial company with various global regulators, reflects a growing maturity of the crypto ecosystem. In short, the tokenization of CMBI's fund on BNB Chain marks a massive turning point in the integration of real-world assets on blockchain. While regulatory uncertainty persists, the boldness essentially of this initiative could well inspire other Asian financial institutions, and time will tell if Hong Kong can maintain its status as a crypto hub aimed pressures from the mainland. So BNB Chain has now been chosen essentially for, they first did choose Solana, but now it's been chosen essentially by this Chinese firm in Hong Kong to be backed regarding their assets. Now, they do hold tremendous amount of assets. We are talking about a $3.8 billion fund that's going to get tokenized on BNB Chain. It's going to get tokenized all at once, probably not bit by bit, but that is ridiculous. It's great news for BNB, great news for the crypto space. Again, it adds that layer of maturity for the crypto space as well, where companies are, comfortably tokenizing $3.8 billion of their assets on chain. Now, more and more companies are expanding inside the crypto space with some sort of fintech bank spaces. So Sony is the next company to do this. Sony takes a major step towards cryptocurrencies. Sony Bank, the financial arm of Sony Group, is seeking a national banking license through the OCC. Just like Ripple, or essentially Circle, Sony Bank, or Paxos, Sony essentially Bank is about to be getting a fintech banking license. So with this license, the bank aims to conduct certain cryptocurrency activities through its subsidiary. According to the filing documents, Sony Bank plans to issue stablecoins pegged to the US dollar, manage reserves for these assets, and offer digital asset custody and portfolio management services. Sony's move comes aimed at a flurry of new financial and technology giants entering the stablecoin market space in the US. Companies like Stripe, Coinbase, Paxos Trust, and Circle, and obviously most importantly Ripple, have also applied for banking license from the OCC. Anchorage Digital Bank is the only company to have received a full license so far. The bank, which faced a cease and desist order from the OCC back in 2022, was finally freed from these restrictions in August of this year. This activity in the sector essentially accelerated further with the passage of the Genius Act. This is what regulations do. They bring the innovation, liquidity, and utility towards the table. This is why the Clarity Act is very important. The new essentially law established a formal framework for the Genius Act for stablecoin issuance and trading, paving the way for many large companies to take the next step. Coinbase makes a listing push also on Binance. Stablecoins are essentially used as a dollar equivalents in digital transactions, and Sony Bank operates as a subsidiary of also Sony Group, but is not independent of the PlayStation maker Sony Interactive Entertainment. The group comprises hundreds of other companies and subsidiaries. Sony's also interest in crypto is not new. Last year, the company partnered with blockchain firm Startail Group, which I talked about on this live last year, to launch an Ethereum Layer 2 network called Sonium. The project went live in January of this year, following plans announced of the 2023 launch. Sony Bank essentially included the following statement in its application. This is what Sony Bank said. They're becoming a fintech bank, a crypto bank. In an initial phase of operations, we plan to conduct certain legally compliant digital asset transactions for national banks. These include dollar-pegged stablecoin issuance, reserve management, digital asset custody services, and asset management activities for select subsidiaries. So, Sony Bank, if anybody is thinking about it in the United States, sooner or later we're going to be having a Sony Bank, a cryptocurrency Sony Bank. I mean, it's big news. Big corporations are bending a knee towards the crypto sector now. Before, they used to, look at the crypto space and go, who wants to be there? And now banks or companies are changing their names to blockchain names or AI names, or an entertainment company is trying to create a crypto banking service now, which is crazy if you think about it. And again, it adds liquidity towards the market space. It makes the crypto market space look more mature than essentially ever. Incredible news, honestly, to be fairly honest. Moving on to Ripple news and moving off essentially the Sony banking news to Brad. Also relatable to the banking news as well. Ripple CEO Brad heavily criticized Wall Street by saying, now they are coming to us. Ripple Labs CEO Brad has slammed Wall Street banks for opposing crypto companies more direct access to Federal Reserve systems. Brad especially said that the resistance to crypto firms obtaining Fed master accounts is hypocritical and anti-competitive. Speaking at the DC FinTech essentially Week event, Brad stated that the crypto sector should be held at the same standards as traditional financial institutions when it comes to combating money laundering and illicit financing, adding, if we're talking about the same standards, then we should also have access to the same infrastructure. It's inconsistent to say one thing and oppose the other. The Fed's master account system allows institutions to directly integrate into the US financial system and access to the central bank systems. However, many cryptocurrency companies have struggled due to the Fed's reluctance to approve such accounts or uncertainty about how the process will work. Ripple recently applied for a master account through its subsidiary Standard Custody and Trust Co. The company also sought a federal bank license from the US of the essentially OCC in July. Brad stated that they have recently held more constructive discussions with banks regarding Ripple's stablecoin project, RLUSD. I had meetings yesterday in New York, Brad said, with banks that refused to talk to us 3 years ago. Now they're asking, how can we collaborate on this? I just want to repeat this one more time, just in case you missed it. This is Brad, the CEO of Ripple, saying this. He said, I had meetings yesterday in New York with banks that refused to talk to us 3 years ago. Now they're asking, how can we collaborate on this? If you were someone that was holding essentially XRP and you felt the frustration inside the market space and you thought this was never going to be happening, I mean, this is Brad, Ripple's CEO, saying where we were to where we've come from, where Ripple essentially was shrugged off by the banks and shoved out of the United States, which required all types of licensing around the world, came back to the United States, and now the same banks that refused to talk to Ripple inside the United States because they hated what Ripple could achieve, are the exact same banks now opening their doors and opening their arms to Brad, the CEO of Ripple. Ripple's CEO argued that granting crypto firms a master account will provide greater stability, oversight, and risk management inside the financial systems. It's really disappointing that some traditional banks are lobbying against this, he said. So if you wanted to solve who really stopped Ripple in their footsteps in the early days, it was the banks. The banks feared what Ripple could bring towards the table. The banks were scared about what could Ripple bring to the table. And that's why the banks weaponized the SEC, Senator Elizabeth Warren, to go against Ripple and slow down their progress or even shut them down, which then made Ripple go international and acquire every single possible license to date around the world and every single partnerships. Ripple got bigger and bigger and bigger. And then came back inside the United States with President Trump as president, and everything changed and it got even better for Ripple. And the same banks that were rejecting Ripple because they knew that Ripple could take them over one day are the exact same banks right now opening their arms and opening their doors to the CEO of Ripple. It just goes back to that old saying, if you can't beat them, join them. And it looks like the tables are turning. Because those banks that hated Ripple and hated what Ripple could bring to the table are now essentially bending a knee and going by the quote of, if you can't beat them, join them. So now they're joining Ripple because they can't beat Ripple. Also, Ripple does not control XRP, says CEO Brad Garlinghouse at DC FinTech Week. Ripple CEO Brad addressed one of the biggest points of confusion inside the crypto space during the DC FinTech Week. He explained that many people still mix Ripple, the company, with XRP, the digital asset. He said, Ripple is a private company backed by venture capital and operates its own business, while XRP is an open source technology that exists independently of Ripple. Brad said that the lawsuit against Ripple was largely about its distinction that Ripple builds financial products that use XRP, but XRP itself is not owned or controlled by Ripple. The token operates on a public blockchain that anyone can access and build upon. Brad clarified that while Ripple has a CEO and a clear company structure, XRP does not because it is decentralized. The XRP ecosystem is made up of many independent developers, companies, and contributors who are all building around on the XRP ledger. This makes the XRP more similar to decentralized open source projects like Bitcoin or Ethereum, which also operate without a single authority. Also, people say things like, well, XRP has a CEO. I'm like, who is it? He said, Ripple has a CEO, that's me, but there are scores, if not hundreds, of other CEOs building around the XRP ecosystem. The XRP ledger governance model shows its independence. Changes or upgrades to the network require approval from a superiority of essential participants, and Ripple's influence does not determine whether an amendment passes or fails. In some cases, proposals Ripple supported were rejected, while others it opposed were approved. This process shows that decision-making lies with the community, not just with Ripple. Brad also says that the confusion around XRP's ownership comes from a lack of understanding of how open source networks work. He opened up what essentially need for better education about blockchain governance and the role of companies like Ripple. Ripple continues to support the XRP ecosystem, but does not control it. The company remains one participant among many in a wider decentralized network. It's because the Bitcoin maxis love on the idea of, saying Ripple essentially controls the XRP ledger, forever essentially, and Bitcoin is decentralized and is owned by the people, which is the most dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire lifetime. Look, in a digital world, as I've said multiple times, in a digital world, yes, decentralization will exist, but elements of centralization will also be there. The same way Bitcoin might seem on the surface, it's decentralized. Nobody controls it. It's the power to the people. In reality, 51% of its pool is controlled by mega organizations. The 5 Bitcoin mining corporations that pretty much run the entire network are public companies that are majority of the shareholders of BlackRock and Franklin Templeton. None of that sounds power to the people. If people are out there actually right now saying Bitcoin is decentralized. Yes, decentralization will exist, but elements of centralization will always be there. Going into a digital world is not about privacy. That's the one thing that's going to be out the window. Now, on that note of Ripple's CEO coming out and saying, Brad coming out and saying, the same banks that rejected Ripple 3 years ago are the exact same banks now opening their doors to Ripple. That should say a lot for everybody that is holding XRP or might be feeling some sort of frustration. And on that note, we have also reached the endings of tonight's live. If you're watching this for the first time ever, this is called the CMF Live. It stands for Crypto Miles Family. My name is Miles. Don't let frustration get to you. And the disclaimer of this episode, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. This was episode 388 of the CMF Live. If you haven't liked or retweeted this live show, please smash the like buttons and the retweet buttons. And if you're watching this on YouTube, just drop a like as well. And also, if you followed or subscribed during these live shows, thank you so much and welcome to the CMF. Now, before obviously we do go, let's go inside the comment section first, just in case there were some questions I haven't answered yet. Let's see what's happening inside the comment section before we do go. So let's see where we're at. We were at here. When is the Clarity Act? We were supposed to be having the Clarity Act. Unfortunately, we had a government shutdown. Why XRP price always dip? Johnny, zoom out. The entire market is dipping. Morning, Miles. Sorry, I'll rewatch it later. Shelly, no problem. Good to see you. So how you doing? How you been, Shelly? Evening, Miles and family. Ian, good to see you. So how you doing? Thanks, Miles. Have a great night. See you tomorrow, same time. Let's go artistic. See you tomorrow, same time as well. Good night, Miles, and all the CMF. Thank you for a great live and news. Let's go, JP. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. Ian, Miles, family. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. JP, see you tomorrow, same time as usual. Jason, see you tomorrow, same time as usual. Artistic, see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Great live. Many thank you. Good night, Miles, and cheers for the trucks. No problem. Skits of crypto anytime, brother. Thank you, Miles. Good night, everyone. Stormy, see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Great show. Take care, Miles and CMF. Ray, see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Good night, Miles and CMF family. Funky brother, see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Thanks, Miles, for another great evening as normal. Let's go. Adi, see you tomorrow, same time as usual. I'll rewatch as I've been working. No problem. Thanks for the more wise words of wisdom, Miles. You're the best. See you tomorrow. Comatose, no problem. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. I will see everybody. Cannot wait until we decouple from BTC. Facts. I'm waiting for that day too. Good night, Miles. Great live show. As usual, we learned a lot thanks to your recap. Can't wait for Can't wait for XRP to reach the moon. Have a nice sleep, my friend. You deserve it, Carl. Let's go. Thank you so much, brother. And see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Cannot wait until we decouple from Bitcoin facts. Good night, Miles and family. Ian, let's go. Good night, Miles. God bless. Let's go, Callie. Ian, see you tomorrow. Callie, see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Lena, thank you so much. Good night, all. Let's go, Lena. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. I will see everybody tomorrow, same timing as usual, for episode 389 of the CMF Live. Like, comment, follow, subscribe if you already haven't. And if you have, honestly, thank you so much for the likes and the retweets and the comments and follow and subscribe. CMF, I will see you all tomorrow, same time as usual, for episode 389 of the CMF Live, 10 p.m. London time, as usual, Monday to Friday. See everybody tomorrow, same time as usual. Everybody have a great day or a good night, wherever you're around the world. Love you all. See you tomorrow.